Hello, I'm Salem Abraham, you're watching Infofeed. It's March 2026. In the heart of Buenos Aires, the air is thick, not just with the humidity of a late Argentinian summer, but with the weight of half a century. Tens of thousands have gathered at the Plaza de Mayo. They aren't just there to mark a date on a calendar. They are there to fight a ghost. Exactly 50 years ago, a military junta tore the fabric of this nation apart. And today, Argentina is a house divided, trapped between a history it cannot forget and a government that wants to rewrite it. This is the story of the National Day of Remembrance. This is the story of 30,000. Cast your mind back to March 24, 1976. While the world was looking at the Cold War through the lens of Washington and Moscow, Argentina was collapsing. Hyperinflation was rampant, and political violence was the order of the day. Then came the tanks. General George Rafael Videla didn't just seize the Pink House or the Casa Rosada. He seized the soul of the country. He called it the National Reorganization Process. It sounds clinical, doesn't it? Like a corporate restructuring. But in reality, it was a blueprint for state-sponsored slaughter. The junta introduced a new, terrifying word to the global political lexicon: desaparecido. Disappeared. If the state shoots you in the street, you are a martyr. If the state kidnaps you in the middle of the night, puts a hood over your head, and erases your existence, you are a ghost. For 7 years, Argentina became a land of ghosts. The Navy Mechanics School in the middle of a bustling city became a concentration camp. People were tortured within earshot of civilian traffic. This is the stuff of nightmares. Prisoners were dragged, stripped naked, and loaded onto planes. They weren't flown to prisons. They were pushed out of the doors into the freezing waters of the Atlantic. No bodies, no evidence, no crime. Perhaps the most depraved chapter. Pregnant detainees were kept alive just long enough to give birth. The babies were then gifted to military families raised by the very men who had murdered their biological parents. When the world looked away, when the media was censored, and when men were too afraid to speak, the women stood up. The Madres de Plaza de Mayo started walking. They wore white headscarves made from the closed diapers of their missing children. The military called them Las Locas, the crazy women. But these crazy women became the conscience of the nation. They didn't have guns, they have photographs. They didn't have a platform, they have a plaza. They turned grief into a political weapon that eventually cracked the junta's facade. You would think that after 50 years, the conscience would be clear. But in 2026, the narrative is under siege. President Javier Milei's administration has pivoted. They aren't denying the deaths, but they are questioning the numbers. They talk about the full truth. They point to the violence of the leftist guerrillas as an equal justification for the military's response. Critics call this negacionismo, denialism. The argument is simple but dangerous. If you can't prove the other side was just as bad, you dilute the guilt of the state. But human rights advocates are clear. There is no equivalence between a guerrilla cell and a state that uses its entire military might to disappear its own people. Why are people still marching in 2026? Because for 140 people in Argentina, their true identity was only discovered through a DNA test. Because hundreds more are still living lives built on a lie, unaware that their parents were actually their kidnappers. Argentina is a global outlier. It's the only country in South America that systematically put its own dictators behind bars in civilian courts. It's proof that never again, nunca más, wasn't just a slogan. It was a legal mandate. But as the 50th anniversary marches show, democracy is not a destination. It's a constant, exhausting vigil. In the streets of Buenos Aires today, the message to the world is loud and clear. You can bury the bodies, you can throw them into the sea, but you cannot drown the truth. Facts inform, but stories transform.